On stage, he was a force of nature, a comet of charisma and talent, burning brighter than anyone had ever seen. Freddie Mercury, the frontman of Queen, could hold 72,000 people in the palm of his hand, their hearts beating in time with his. This was the man the world knew, a larger-than-life icon, wrapped in spectacle and sound. But behind the curtain, beyond the deafening applause and the blinding lights, was a man the world rarely saw, a man whose capacity for love and compassion was as vast as his vocal range. And this is the story of how that man, in the midst of Queen's global domination, put everything on hold for one single fan, a little girl named Lily, whose own world had shrunk to the four walls of a hospital room, and whose only escape was the voice coming from that tiny cassette player. This isn't a story about a rock star. This is a story about a promise, a secret journey, and a moment of pure, unscripted humanity that would change everything for a family on the brink of despair. The year was 1985. Queen was an unstoppable force, a global phenomenon, preparing for the performance of their lives at Live Aid. The pressure was immense. Rehearsals were grueling, interviews were endless, and the eyes of the world were on them. Freddie Mercury was at the epicenter of this hurricane of fame. His every moment was scheduled, managed, and scrutinized. His home, Garden Lodge in Kensington, was his sanctuary, a fortress against the chaos of his public life, guarded by his trusted inner circle. It was there, amidst piles of fan mail that arrived by the sackful, that a single, unassuming letter found its way into the hands of Peter Freestone, Freddie's loyal personal assistant. Most letters were from adoring fans asking for autographs or photos, but this one was different. It wasn't written in the excited scrawl of a teenager, but in the careful, trembling handwriting of a desperate mother. Her name was Eleanor, and her daughter Lily was fighting a battle she was not expected to win. A rare congenital heart defect had kept Lily in and out of hospitals for most of her young life. Now, the doctors were saying there was little more they could do. Her time was measured in weeks, perhaps days. In her letter, Eleanor didn't ask for money. She didn't ask for concert tickets or signed memorabilia. Her plea was far more precious and far more impossible. She wrote about her daughter's love for Queen. She described how Lily, too weak to play or even read, would lie in her bed for hours, a small pair of headphones over her ears, listening to their albums. She explained that Freddie's voice was the only thing that could make her smile, the only thing that seemed to soothe her pain. The song she played over and over was "You're My Best Friend." Her request was simple and heartbreaking. She wrote, "I know this is impossible, but I have to ask. My daughter's one wish is to meet the man whose voice has been her only friend through her darkest days, even for a moment, just to see him, to know he's real." Peter Freestone knew Freddie's schedule. He knew the security protocols. He knew the wall Freddie kept between his public persona and his private life. Taking this letter to him was a risk. It could be seen as an unwelcome emotional burden during a time of intense professional pressure. But something in the mother's words compelled him. That evening, as Freddie was relaxing in his Japanese garden, a rare moment of tranquility, Peter approached him, the letter in his hand. "Freddie," he said quietly. "I know you're busy, but I think you should read this." Freddie took the letter. As he read, his famously expressive face became still. The flamboyant showman vanished. In his place was a man, Farrokh Busara, reading a mother's prayer. He read it once, then twice. The world of rock and roll, of stadium tours and chart-topping hits faded away. In that garden, all that existed was the story of a little girl in a hospital bed, finding solace in his music. He looked up at Peter, his eyes filled with a profound seriousness. There was no hesitation. "When is the next rehearsal, Phoebe?" he asked, using his affectionate nickname for Peter. "Tomorrow, all day. It's the final run-through before the big press conference." Freddie folded the letter carefully and handed it back. His voice was soft, but carried an authority that was absolute. "Cancel it," he said. "Cancel everything tomorrow. Find out which hospital she's in. We're going." "And Peter? Nobody can know about this. Not the band, not the press, not anyone. This is for her." The decision was made, but turning it into a reality was a logistical and emotional minefield. The moment Peter Freestone made the first call, the conflict began. Queen's management was, to put it mildly, aghast. "Cancel the rehearsal," their manager, Jim Miami, likely bellowed over the phone. "Freddie, are you mad? We have Live Aid in a matter of weeks. The entire world is watching. We can't just cancel a full-day rehearsal for a personal visit." The arguments were valid. There were contracts, schedules, and millions of dollars on the line. More than that, there was the security risk. Freddie Mercury couldn't just walk into a public hospital. A single leak to the press would turn a quiet act of kindness into a chaotic media circus, traumatizing the very child he wanted to help and every other patient in the hospital. The paparazzi were relentless. A sighting of Freddie Mercury entering a children's hospital would spawn 1,000 cruel and speculative headlines. Freddie listened to all the reasons why it was impossible. He understood the risks, but his resolve was like granite. This wasn't a debate. "It's not about the press, Miami," Freddie insisted, his voice calm but unyielding. "It's about a little girl. We will be discreet. We will go at night. We will take my driver's car, not the Rolls, but we are going. End of discussion." The plan was set to motion, shrouded in absolute secrecy. It felt less like a hospital visit and more like a covert operation. The following evening, long after the sun had set over London, Freddie slipped out of Garden Lodge. He wore no leather jacket, no flamboyant attire, just a simple pair of jeans, a dark jacket, and a baseball cap pulled down low over his eyes. He was almost unrecognizable. The journey to the hospital was thick with tension. Every passing car seemed like a potential photographer. As they drove through the quiet suburban streets, Freddie was silent, staring out the window. The weight of the evening was palpable. On stage, he was fearless, a master of his domain. But this was different. He was stepping into a world of real, profound fragility. He was about to face a fan, not in a stadium filled with adoration, but in a small room filled with the quiet hum of medical equipment. He wasn't going there as Freddie Mercury, the rock god. He had to be Freddie, the man, and that was infinitely more terrifying. At the hospital, Peter had made arrangements with a single trusted head nurse who had promised complete discretion. They were to use a rear service entrance, far from the main lobby. As they walked through the eerily quiet, sterile corridors, the only sound was the soft squeak of their shoes on the linoleum floor. The air smelled of antiseptic and a faint, lingering sadness. For Freddie, a man who lived a life of vibrant color, sound, and energy, this place was the complete antithesis of his world. Each door they passed was a reminder of the battle being fought within. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach. What could he possibly say? What could he do? Could he truly make a difference? Or would his presence just be an awkward intrusion? The nurse led them to the end of a corridor and stopped in front of a door. A small, hand-drawn picture of a cat was taped to it. "She's just in here," she whispered, her eyes full of a mixture of awe and gratitude. "Her mother is with her. They're expecting you." Freddie took a deep, shaky breath. He looked at Peter, a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. For a split second, he was not the king of Queen. He was just a man, standing outside a little girl's room about to face his smallest and most important audience. Freddie nodded to the nurse. He pushed the door open gently and stepped inside. The room was dimly lit. Lily was asleep, her small chest rising and falling in a shallow rhythm. Her mother, Eleanor, sat in a chair by the bed, her head in her hands. She looked up as the door opened, her eyes widening